Okay. Well, we're going to start. Welcome everybody again, the audience online and also face to face. We're so sorry that we couldn't connect before, you know, all tech issues like we always have. But we're also happy because we have Jason Levine with us today. It is a great pleasure to have you. We have a wonderful crowd here listening to you. They're so excited. They want to see you. And so the floor is yours.
Okay, well, a couple questions. Hello. Are you going to turn my camera on, or is this just going to be audio? You can see me. Okay. Can everybody see me? Or, okay, so I can't see myself, which is a little bizarre, but that's okay. Everyone's seeing me. Okay. Well, welcome. And the sound is a bit odd. Do you want me to turn up or down? Should I turn my volume up or down? Or, okay. It's not as clear as before. Most importantly, I mean, we have some people here in the chat box from all over the world. We have a big group, even though I can't see you, in Venezuela. So welcome. How is the sound in the auditorium? This is the most important thing right now. So if you guys are controlling that, it's okay. Fantastic. It's hard for me to know. Okay. Well, I am so pleased to be here. It's an honor in many respects. So let me just run those down for you. So it's an honor because I have great respect for Venezuela TESOL. When I first joined social media groups like on Facebook, I quickly connected with Venezuela TESOL. I've always felt, you know, I've been shown a lot of love from them. Since, I guess, 2000, I don't know, 10, something like this. I haven't yet been physically to Venezuela, although there are a couple times I almost went. I'm sure I will be there at some point. I'd really love to. So Venezuela TESOL, thank you, Evelyn, and everyone else that has made this possible and brought me here. The other reason it's exciting, well, there's several reasons, as I mentioned. One other reason is that I work with WizIQ. We're doing this through WizIQ, and I have never addressed an auditorium this way through WizIQ. I do a lot of teaching and teacher development using this platform, but it's with people that are, you know, individually at their homes or schools, not coming out this way. So this is really, really exciting. I don't see that there's a recording being made, but I'm hoping there is. Can I just ask if there is a recording being made? I guess because I don't have the controls, I can't see that. But I'm hoping we have a recording so people that aren't here can check this out. And yeah, so that's the second reason, is using WizIQ for this. And finally, another reason is that I have been doing a lot of, as I mentioned, teacher development using WizIQ, and really wanting to reach out not just online but into schools and organizations more. So to be doing this with Ven TESOL this way it's just it's a great opportunity for me. So thank you so much for making this happen. My presentation is entitled ELT through rhythm and rhyme. And if I could just get confirmation that you can see that slide, I won't ask you each time, but just if you can see that slide so that I know that the PowerPoint is working. Thank you. It's great to have this chat box with a dozen or so people here, and then to also know I've got this room that's watching me. This is just wonderful. So ELT through rhythm and rhyme, collocation, critical thinking, and the 3 R's. Rather a lengthy title. We all know what ELT is. And how about rhythm? How does rhythm connect to language teaching and language learning? And you might think of a word that we use more often than rhythm, especially when we're talking about English language teaching and learning. Intonation, interesting. Intonation, very important, isn't it? But that's not really what I have in mind when I think about the rhythm of the language. It connects to it, but what's another word? And I'm looking at the chat box because I can't hear everyone in the audience. So maybe, Evelyn, if you hear the word that I'm looking for, you could type it in on behalf of, well, the beat for sure. And we use that in English teaching as we do the word rhythm, but what's another word? Accent. And accent can be confusing because it has that sort of, it's polysemic, right? It has a polysemic. It's got several meanings. So I don't really use it that much, but we do talk about the accent that way, but also somebody's accent could be the inflections and where they speak. I'm still looking for another word. I'll give you a clue. Language like Spanish is a syllable-timed language, but English is not syllable-timed. English is, stress-timed. That's right. So, if we have a sentence, or just this title, ELT through rhythm and rhyme. ELT, right? That's not intonation as much as it's stress. ELT through rhythm and rhyme. We could say ELT through rhythm and rhyme, or ELT through rhythm and rhyme, right? We could change the intonation, but the beat, right, the stress, that doesn't change. Rhyme, as we know in English, is very important because the sounds and spellings of English are all messed up. Doesn't mean there aren't patterns, there are, but compared to a language like Spanish, right? So if I'm learning Spanish and I learn the letter E, or you would say E, then when I encounter a word with E, I can pronounce that letter, that sound, because they're the same in that word. But in English, what do you think? You see the letter E. Do you automatically know how that's pronounced? Nope. So we can learn through phonetics, phonics, instruction, this kind of thing, raising awareness of, which vowels that go together and, silent letters and so forth. Or we could do it just by getting practice with the sounds and words. So we don't sit here saying rhythm because we've heard the word and seen the word. But rhyme is very important. Oh, there's my friend and colleague, Evelyn. Oh, I can see people now. Hooray. Hi. Nice. So glad you're with me today. Thank you so much. It is really wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you so much. All right. I can't hear, but maybe that's best. It's up to you, Evelyn. I don't know if you want to turn on the mic on your end. But anyway, let me keep going. Do you know what collocations are in language? If you're in the audience, just shout it out. If you're in the chat box, you could put it in. A collocation is kind of a fancy word, right? Or a linguistic sounding word. How about for your students? You might have a different way to explain it. Standard expression, combinations of word, high frequency word combinations, nice. So I'm going to show you today how I have not created a method, but developed an approach, especially an approach to materials design based on collocations and critical thinking. When you think about a collocation, you don't usually think about critical thinking, but to achieve critical thinking, to be able to, and we'll look at Bloom's taxonomy in a moment, to be able to move up the hierarchy of objectives as a teacher and move up the hierarchy of thinking, analytical thinking, evaluative thinking. You need to have a strong base of knowledge, and that's where the collocations come in. The 3 R's. Has anyone ever heard of the 3 R's? Traditionally in the United States, the 3 R's meant what? And I'm not sure if this is an American thing that includes Venezuela in the Americas, how many people are aware of the 3 R's. And Tom's got it. I'm going to keep going and just come back to those 3 R's because I have my own 3 R's that I'm going to talk to you about today. This is me. I have a video for a song I did called Stick, Stuck, Stuck to teach irregular verbs. This was the first song I wrote and the first video I put up on YouTube, and it remains the most popular. A student made the video. There was no plan to release it, or just happened that way. The name I use on the internet for the songs I make and videos is Fluent CMC. And I wrote here, learn by heart. Is learning by heart the same as memorizing something? This is going to be very important in this presentation to talk about building vocabulary and structures to fluency and accuracy. Is learning by heart the same thing as memorizing? It could be, or it might not be, depending on how you define memorization. This is me in Tunisia. I teach online, but I do also a lot of traveling and doing workshops. So this was a few years ago in Tunisia with students. So maybe you already know, if you know a little bit about me or you see this picture, what I do with collocations, the materials I make. We are in WizIQ now. How cool is that to have this picture here? I wasn't sure whether we were going to use WizIQ today or not. I'm thrilled that we are because I'm working closely with them. Any of you in the audience in Venezuela, if you are interested in the idea of teaching online, using the classroom online for blended learning, to do a separate private teaching course, anything like that, please get in touch with me. Of course, I'll tell you how you can do that. This is me in a class in WizIQ. I don't see a slide here. Not sure what happened. Let me click again. Aha. Let me go back. I don't know why my slides did not come up there. One second. I'm just going to take a look. Huh. That's strange. This slide is not appearing, nor is this one. No matter. This is the MOOC that I am currently doing, called Teachers Teaching Online. And I'll tell you how you can join this if you're interested. We've got a lot of great teachers involved in this MOOC. And these are some screenshots of Teachers Teaching Online. So I just wanted to show you that as background, not background so much as what I'm doing now, and then at the end I'll remind you about those MOOCs and how we can stay in touch. But let's go back to where we were, talking about building fluency and accuracy in English, and how collocations fit into this, how critical thinking fits into it, and how rhythm and rhyme fit into it. Have you ever had a student like this? I had a student, Chi-Yun Lee, and she made sentences like, yesterday I go a movie. Pretty common, right? The problem for Ji-Yun Lee was that Ji-Yun Lee, and there are many students like her, she was from Korea, she had been in the U.S., in New Jersey, which is where I am today, in this area, for several years, in fact, maybe 4 or 5 years, and was still producing sentences like this after 4 years, 5 years in the United States. taking English classes 18 hours a week, right, in order to satisfy the requirements for her student visa, right? She was here as a student. And she produced sentences like this, not fluently either. So we see the problem with accuracy here, but also not fluently. So if I said, so, Ji-Yun, what did you do yesterday? Yesterday I go a movie. So also not very fluently. Well, why? Is it because she didn't understand about past tense? She didn't know the irregular verb go? Or she thought it's correct to say go a movie instead of go to a movie? It wasn't this, right? She was doing very well in her English classes on quizzes and things, and she could explain the grammar. But she wasn't fluent enough and she wasn't accurate enough. What was happening? Well, there was this vicious cycle. I said there was for her, but there is still for so many students, keeping them here, right, at the intermediate level. This is not my collocation, the intermediate plateau, right? This is, it comes from the lexical approach, which I'll mention shortly. But I love that image, right? I know if you're an English teacher, you know what I'm talking about, how it's hard to get our students off the intermediate plateau. Tom has written in the chat box, complacency. Yes, from what, though? So, low input. Why? She's in the United States. Consider for a moment why there might still be low input. Now, if your students are in Venezuela, you could say, well, low input, sure, because you only have short amount of time in the classroom with them, and outside the classroom, they're going to hear Spanish and use Spanish. Maybe more with her family members, her Korean friends, Korean internet, right? Well, why that low input? Well, let's look. If you have low input in your second language, your foreign language, your comprehension will be low, right? Especially if you don't have enough comprehensible input. And then what happens? How do you feel? Well, your confidence goes down. Well, if your confidence goes down, your motivation goes down. If your motivation goes down, then are you likely to seek input in your second language or your foreign language? Are you going to watch something in English, read something in English if you're not motivated? So that's the vicious cycle. How could we break this? So I was thinking about these things. Ji-Yun Lee was my student just before I wrote Stick, Stuck, Stuck. And in fact, the reason I use her name, and there are many students like her, is because she, in fact, inspired me to write that song about irregular verbs, because she just wasn't getting enough input of irregular verb forms. How could I get my students in this cycle? So this was 2008, maybe? 2009, something like this. This is just the reverse, right? Or the converse. How can we have high input leading to high comprehension, which builds confidence, increases motivation, then with high motivation, oh, I want to watch that video in English. I'm going to check out that short story in English. How can we achieve this? Has anyone seen this before? I actually referred to it a few minutes ago. My guess is it's familiar to some, if not all of you. Well, what I noticed was happening with students like Ji-Yun at the college where I was teaching. At this time, I was an academic director of an English language program, full-time intensive program. And I was a big promoter and supporter of communicative language teaching. You know, I did the CELTA, I got my MA at Hunter College in New York. I was all about communicative language teaching. So I was hiring teachers and training them to hold classes, you know, based on really interesting discussions and getting students to express their opinions and, you know, thinking about applying knowledge, analyzing knowledge, synthesizing knowledge, all right? Sound good, right? Who wants the boring language class where you're just repeating stuff? Who wants audiolingual? Well, there's a problem. People like Ji-Yun Lee, if you ask them, would say, oh, I really love my English class. Oh, why? Because we talk about things, we express opinions, we don't just do boring exercises. But what? What was the problem? If you look down at the first level here of knowledge, she didn't have the recall. She could understand irregular verbs were needed. She could understand go requires a preposition before a noun, all of that stuff, but where's the recall? And without that, how can we really move up Bloom's taxonomy? Well, I would argue we can't. We might think we are, but we're really not, and it's unfair to our students if they're not getting enough input, especially with collocations, as I'll soon talk about, at the knowledge level. How can we get them to use a foreign language, a second language, creatively, critically, higher order thinking? So the audiolingual method, which I was trained to essentially detest for good reason, had sufficient input and repetition, but often boring, out of context, not meaningful, right? I think we all can relate to this. I certainly can, thinking back to when I took French in middle school, because my French class in middle school, I mean, we memorized those drills, those conversation drills. I can remember a couple of them. So it's interesting, I memorized them. I wouldn't say I learned them by heart. I don't remember 98% of them. I think I've got like 2 of them in my head. So for example, hello Delphine, ici Alain. Oh, bonjour Alain, ça va? Oui, ça va. Il neige chic. Allons-y dans le jardin. Why is that still in my head? And is that useful? When do I need to talk about it's snowing, let's go out to the yard? Why don't I have French in there that's functional, that's useful? This is what the problem with audiolingual method. The communicative approach, which I just finished saying I was a big proponent of, and I remain a proponent of, could be more interesting and meaningful, right? Like Ji-Yun's classes. She was saying she really enjoyed her English classes. But, and this is what I started to discover, 2008, 2009, right? There's not enough repetitive exposure to input to build that knowledge level. Both cases, easy to lose motivation. Well, this is what I figured out. And maybe you thought about this way, or you haven't thought about it quite this way, but it resonates with you. Do you know this idiom, the baby in the bathwater? What do we say? Don't, if you could write in the chat box if you know this one. Don't what? And if you're in the audience and you know this one, just say it out loud. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So in this case, the bathwater is what we don't want. That's the boring, repetition that's focusing on memorizing, meaningless or at least uninteresting, not very functional, right, drills and repetitive practice. Let's get rid of that. But should we get rid of repetition? Should we not repeat in order to build knowledge of the language? Well, that's insane, isn't it? How can we expect to move up without enough repetitive exposure to input? Have you heard this before? I can't hear you, Van TESOL, but I can hear you. You're shouting it out, right? Kids are like sponges. Has anyone ever heard this? They say yes? Okay, good. Not just about language learning, but you hear this most frequently, or maybe I'm prejudiced because I'm a language teacher, but I think, I imagine People talk about this much more with language learning than with other kinds of learning, but it is, of course, true about learning in general, isn't it? Why? What are some of the reasons people say this about kids? And thank you, Evelyn, if you could communicate some of the ideas you hear in the chat box. I love this hybrid, doing it with people who are chatting in the chat box and having this group in Venezuela. It's just remarkable. True honor. What are some of the reasons we say kids are like sponges in regard to language learning? They quickly soak everything up. And why? What is it about kids? They're pure. What else?
Discriminate. They absorb everything they are in contact.
I can hear now. Beautiful. See that one more? Oh, it's gone now. Well, I heard for a moment. It's the way their brain works. I like Miroslava's answer because we're not sure exactly why, right? We know it's the way their brain works, and there are ideas why it works this way. They pick things up easily. Good. Well, I wrote some ideas down here that I think are important. They learn easily. Absolutely. Why do they learn easily? So here are some reasons. Something to do with their age, physiologically, right? Neurons connecting. Large amounts of repetitive input. This is not so much their age as their environment, right? As a child learning a language. The brain's fresh. I like that, fresh brain. They're relaxed. Watch kids when they're learning language. And this goes with not concerned with errors, right? They're not like, how am I going to remember this phrasal verb? They can't even think analytically like that. They're not going to say, well, why does a noun go after a preposition, but when you have this, blah, 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 right? Well, I feel strongly that all of these are at play and other things too with kids, but that we can do things with teenagers and adults. And if you teach children, that's great because you often don't run into these issues as much, but you still might, and especially middle school and above, the ability to think analytically. And it's a really important paradox. We want critical thinking, remember? We want analytical thinking, but we don't usually want it to acquire the language. Studying it, thinking about it, does not usually correlate with high fluency or even high accuracy. So this is what I started to think about, because my students were not, as you saw with Ji-Yun Lee, my students were not becoming as proficient as they wanted to using this approach, using the communicative approach in the classroom. How could my teenagers and adults be sponges, right? How could I get them enough exposure to repetitive input, but have them be relaxed and engaged and interested, not like me with French class, bored, stressed, and not concerned about errors? Well, that was pretty good with the communicative language classroom, right? That part was pretty good. But even though we were doing communicative language teaching, there was a lot of talk about grammar and how to understand this and that, a lot of that analyzing. Some students, especially adults, will say they like that. But it doesn't usually help so much, and it can really hurt. How important is repetition? This is something I really started to think about a lot. Well, if we need enough input and we need exposures to the same, especially collocations we're going to get to be able to remember them and then build sentences, then repetition is hugely important, and this is where audio-lingual method taught us something, that we need that part. But is there good repetition, bad repetition, natural, unnatural? These are questions I started to think about a lot. Practice makes perfect, I mean saying. Here's one thing I knew for sure. right? One thing I was doing well as a teacher was figuring out what worked and what didn't to make my students interested and engaged. I don't mean that I did everything right. I mean that I really listened and watched to see what they liked and what they didn't, because this has such an impact on whether the students are going to want to learn English. Okay, quiz time. When I say Rome blank, like think Paris blank, London blank, what do you think? You can type it in or shout it out. Rome City, well, it's a city, comes next. That's what I'm talking about. Do you say Australia? Does that sound good to you? Or how about Rome, Canada? Italy. Better, isn't it? Rome, Italy. You might think, well, of course, Rome is in Italy. Okay. How about Nuku'alofa? What word comes next? Any idea? Nuku'alofa, Africa? Nope. Nope. We don't say Nuku'alofa, Africa. That's a tough one, right? Tunisia, Hawaii, nope, nope, nope. We say Nuku'alofa, Tonga, because Nuku'alofa is the capital city of Tonga, which is an island nation in the South Pacific. So Hawaii was a little bit closer. Now, why is it that you know Rome, Italy, but not Nuku'alofa, Tonga? Not Tongo, Tonga. I'll put it here in the chat. Nuku'alofa, Tonga. It's a country in, not Tong, excuse me. There we go. Why don't you know Nuku'alofa, Tonga? Is it harder than Rome, Italy? Think about that word I'm using, harder. Is it harder? It seems harder, doesn't it, to think of the answer. Tom says coverage. I think I know what he means. Let's keep going. Michael. I say Michael, what word comes next? Bolton, Jackson, Jackson. How about basketball? Any basketball fans? Especially my age. Michael Jordan. Okay, so that word sounds natural with Michael for you, right? Those words. How about Sarah Blake? So Michael's a name, and so is Sarah Blake. Sarah Blake. What's next? Is it harder? I think so. Sarah Blake is a student from my high school, old friend of mine. So for me, Sarah Blake Purvis. Purvis is her last name. So for me, that's easy. Just like Nuku'alofa, Tonga is easy for me because I make geography songs about the whole world. So I know every country and capital. You can test me later if you don't believe me. So yes, I know Caracas is the capital of Venezuela. But I know every country in South America and Africa and the world. 8 times 7? 56? How about 8 times 7 is 59? Do you like that? 8 times 7 is 56 is like this, right? Right? But 8 times 7 is 59 is like, you know, Rome, Canada. No combination, right? They are not combinations that go together. Now, when I asked you about 8 times 7, did you calculate it? Did you think 8 sets of 7 or 8 plus 8 like this? Or 7 sets of 8? No. Why not? Because in your head, you have this as a chunk. You know which other word I'm thinking of that's coming up again. It's there as one chunk. You could explain it as 8 sets of 7, 7 sets of 8, right? Like we could teach a monkey to know it's 56, but the monkey can't explain why. Or I could teach my daughter, who doesn't know multiplication yet, I say 8 times 7, you say 56, repeating it over and over again, but if she doesn't know why, then that's not very useful. But once you know why, you don't need to calculate anymore. Why are we talking about math? Does this connect to language learning and use of language? Absolutely. Think about irregular verbs. If you stop and think, well, yesterday I right? Drink, drunk, right? If you're doing that, it's like 8 times 7 is 8 plus 8. What's the problem there? Fluency or accuracy? If you don't know it, automatically. What's missing? The fluency is missing. The fluency is missing. But how about 8 times 7 is 59? Yesterday I eat at a restaurant. Fluency is okay. What's wrong? The accuracy is not there. So the student who says 8 times 7 is 59 or 8 times 7, right? Or the English student that makes mistakes all the time doesn't realize it very fluently. Or the student who can't really speak or write fluently because they're thinking too much, right? Or they're too nervous, or both. These are the same issues. It really comes down to collocation. This is more traditionally what we think of as collocations, right? I'll come back to that. But these are collocations too. My opinion. You might not think 8 times 7 is 56 is a collocation. But how about here? Explain what? Quick. What's the next thing you think of? Shout it out. Then TESOL. Explain life. Explain a lesson. Do we explain someone something? Or do we explain something to someone? Now in Spanish, can you explicar alguien? Explain someone? Now this is a rule, and we can learn the rule, but it's not the rule that we learn as kids, right? We learn based on what we hear. Oh, I explained this to him. We don't say, I explained to him this, right? How about food? Any collocations, word combinations with food? Local food. Nice one. Fast food. Junk food. Totally. I hope you're shouting out in there. I can't hear you, so I want to make sure you're shouting them out. Totally what? Totally traditional? Or was that traditional food? Totally traditional? Traditional food. Venezuelan food. Yay. Totally true. Totally free. How about a bus? A bus stop? A bus driver? Then TESOL says a bus station. Ooh, a crowded bus. Adjective noun. How about smoking? Bus driver? Good. No smoking. Stop smoking. These are collocations. We have heard and seen these word combinations so often, ban smoking, wonderful, that we have them automatically up here. That's that knowledge level of Bloom's Academy. Those collocations are, that's the substance of a sentence, right? To make a sentence, it's not word to sentence, right? It's word to collocation to sentence. And we know the sentence is the smallest unit of real communication. How do we get to that sentence, making it accurate and fluent? I will argue it's collocation and repeating those collocations as much as you need to get them up here. Collocation, then, some of you said before, word combination, chunk of language, high frequency, somebody said that's very important. Nuku'alofa Tonga is a high-frequency collocation where? There is somewhere in the world where Nuku'alofa Tonga is a high-frequency collocation. Yes, it is in Tonga. So for the Tongolese, I'm guessing that's what they call themselves, I'm not sure, or Tongolians, I don't know. Nuku'alofa Tonga is as easy as, Rome, Italy for us, or Caracas, Venezuela. Has anyone heard of the lexical approach? Because everything I'm talking about so far, the repetitions part notwithstanding, so let me clarify that. What I've been talking about with collocations comes from the lexical approach. All of us. Yay, go TESOL. So what I'm saying to you about collocations is not my ideas. I will share with you soon where I bring my ideas into this. So lexical approach I fell in love with when I first started teaching, or almost when I first started teaching in the 90s. The central tenet here is language consists of grammaticalized lexis, not lexicalized grammar. What does that mean to you? What's more important, or what is the essence of language? The words, the meaning, good. What's the glue? What connects it all? Good, right? The grammar is connecting it all. But isn't it interesting how, especially in the Americas, I don't mean just the United States, but the Americas, so many syllabi are still grammar-based. And in the 90s and the first decade of the 21st century, still so many people putting grammar first, not function, and certainly not function based on collocations enough. This is what the lexical approach was all about. Really inspired me. Inspired me so much that I started calling collocations collos. I started using this word with my student. Let's collo this word. So if I give you a word like enjoy, let's collo it. Oh, enjoy going out. Or how about give me an adjective collo, using the collo as now. Give me an adjective collo for day. Oh, a beautiful day. Oh, a depressing day, a long day, right? Collo it. I do this on my Facebook page. Getting students to make chunks. Because we talk a lot about synonyms and antonyms and, word building, prefixes and suffixes. It's great. But to my mind, the most important piece, right, is a collocation. If you have a synonym for knowledge, is that really what you need, or do you need acquire knowledge, deep knowledge, share knowledge? Now, you need, I think, those collocations more than you need a new word. So trying to put Collocation Central in what I was doing. That's what I started doing. And I came up with this. What you see on the first bullet point here is really based on the lexical approach. It's not my idea. An ELL, English language learner, who lacks the ability to automatically recall collocations, lacks the foundation on which to build accurate and fluent communicative skills. Right? So that's that knowledge foundation, that's that recall level of Bloom's taxonomy. Basically, this is what I was inferring from the lexical approach, not my own idea. But the second part is more what I brought into this. Because I was so convinced by what the lexical approach was saying, I wanted to do it all. But the question was, how? How are my students going to get all this input? And you know what the lexical approach told us? It said, yeah, they need extensive repetitions of these collocations. Here's what we've got to offer you, however. Some worksheets, some workbooks. This didn't make me angry, but it made me puzzled. Like, wait a second. I need materials that my students are going to use again and again to get that repetitive input. They're not going to do a make and do worksheet 100 times, right? They'll love that make and do worksheet, right? They'll love it. Oh, collocations, make the bed, do the laundry. But repeating it over and over again is not going to help them. This slide probably makes no sense to you, but it will in a moment. Most students are neither farmers nor sailors. Let me explain what I mean here. Think about working out, right? Building muscles, exercising. If you are a farmer, or if you're a sailor, do you need to go to the gym to work out? Why not? You don't need to go to the gym to exercise. Why not? You're doing hard work. Your job is your gym. Yeah, you don't need to seek out special opportunities. Now, all the language teachers in the room now, do you know what I mean? Is that enough for you to understand what I'm talking about? Our students are not, whether they're in a country like Venezuela or even in a country like the United States, they're not getting enough practice naturally. They're not getting enough input and they're not getting enough practice. They have to go to the gym. What's the gym? The classroom. Is it only the classroom? What's the gym? The classroom. Other ways of getting English input and practice that are not natural. That doesn't mean it's bad. I just mean it's not happening naturally. Social media. Good exposure and practice, but where? Smartphones. We have many more opportunities now to go to the gym to get that practice and real life situations as much as possible. Harder when you're in a country where English is not the first language that you're going to hear and see. In English, we say, which one? Listen music or listen to music in English? Right. How about in Spanish? ¿Escuchar a la música or escuchar la música? In Spanish, is it the same or different from English? In French, I'm waiting for my then TESOL. Oh, Tom is also in Venezuela. Or maybe you just know Spanish. Yeah, it's different, right? In French also, écouter la musique, not écouter à la musique, right? Which one's right? Which one's wrong? Who cares? Stopping to think about it now from a historical point of view. If you're interested in linguistics and why and all of that, great. Right? But the brain doesn't care. The brain only cares about what sounds right and looks right. So if my daughter says, I'm making my homework, I'm not doing my homework, she has not heard do homework enough. And she's never going to hear people say, make homework, make homework, make homework. She's going to hear do homework, do homework, do homework. So if she heard make homework, then that would sound right, and that's what would be the collocation. But, of course, it's not going to be like that for her. We need that input, and we must be relaxed and engaged. Where is that input going to come from? I have the slide here with some, by the way, I'm looking at the time. We started a little bit late. I don't know if I have time to go over or not. I should probably find out right now. In any case, this PowerPoint is published. You guys can look at it. If I don't have extra time, which will be fine, I understand because of the schedule at TESOL, then I'm going to go through a little bit quickly some of the next slides. So Evelyn or Miguel or somebody, if you could let me know, sorry for this brief interruption, because I don't want to not get to certain things. So I'm waiting for the word. Here it comes. 12 minutes left. Okay. 12 minutes is 12 minutes. Then I'm going to skip over some stuff. I'm just going to show you that I started to make with my students what we call collo posters. Passionate love, look for love, love of my life. You can see these are all collocations. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Exactly. I started making these posters. They're all free on the Fluent CMC Facebook page. And as I said, this PowerPoint will be available to you guys. You know, this is lexical approach stuff. Do we think about what an uncountable noun is? Do we learn like this noun is countable, that noun is countable? Or would it be better to collocate, right? Collo, quantifiers and nouns. Too much information, too much information. You hear it enough, see it enough. You don't say too many informations anymore, right? So I made these, right? Here's another one. Adjective preposition combinations. And they worked in the sense that students liked doing them, but still not enough input. And then one day in the class, I had an epiphany. I said something like, you know, I always, and my students said Coca-Cola. And I didn't understand why, right? Always, and my students said Coca-Cola. Do you know why? Always Coca-Cola. At the time, there was an advertisement, as Tom is saying, always Coca-Cola. This was an intermediate student on the plateau, right? A student who did not know, always be there, always on time, always love you, right? She didn't have those collocations automatically. She had always Coca-Cola, which is not very functional. You can't use that very well in natural conversations, in real life situations. But she had it as a collocation. Why? How about just? If I said just, my students said what? I wish they'd said just fine. You got to think commercials again, and you got to think about how old I am. So maybe some of you when you were little kids. Oh, I wish it was just the two of us in just a minute. These are the collocations they lacked. I said just, and my students said, I'm waiting for it. I know it's coming. Someone's shouting it out there in Venezuela. No. See, these are great. You're getting all the high-frequency collocations. There it is. The Nike commercial. So I had students who knew just do it, but they didn't know just a little, just a moment. Right? They didn't have those. And how about Kentucky, my favorite? I had a Japanese student. Here they come. I had a Japanese student. He did not know there was a a state named Kentucky. But when we opened up a map, he was a beginner level. He saw the word Kentucky, and he said, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Because that collocation he had. Why? What were these people getting? Super high frequency exposures to these collocations. And I thought, this is good and this is bad. This is good because now I realize just how often they are going to need to hear and see these collos to internalize them, to have them automatically. Right? That was good. The bad part, how am I going to do that? How are they going to get that kind of input? They were learning by heart. Remember this? Nobody was memorizing always Coca-Cola. I'm going to memorize this. To me, it became very distinct, these two ideas, right, of memorizing and learning by heart. Remember the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic? I'm going to move a little fast here because of the time. Well, I came up with my own 3 R's. Relax, repeat, remember. This is what we're doing when we're learning by heart. So our grandmother sings us a lullaby. We don't memorize it. But we hear it enough times, or a poem, or a story, and it sticks, right? We remember it. It sticks in our heads. Especially what? Especially music. And I knew this. I'm going to skip over this because of time. There's a story back there. So if you're interested, you can look and you'll probably figure it out. Especially music. And I want to make sure I have enough time. 7 minutes should be enough. to show you that. Music sticks in our head, so I started making songs. Stick, stuck, stuck, the irregular verb song was the one I made first, where I took collocations, put them in songs with music that adults would like. You see I have some adult students there, or teenagers and kids, different songs for different ages, that I hope they would repeat, because we naturally repeat songs. We like a song, we listen again. It's not like a newspaper article. I have to read this same article 10 times, right? If we like the song, we repeat it. It's natural. Well, I can rap, but see, the point is I make materials you can use. You don't have to rap. For example, I have a new song. I'm just going to do a little bit of it for you. It's called Fresh, Fresher, Freshest. Now, it's nice if you can rap. That's great, but you don't have to rap. You don't have to make your own CDs with conversation practice. You use the CDs. You can use my songs, my videos. That's the whole point. If you want to do it with me, great. If not, you're just helping your students get engaged with this stuff. What do you think this song is about? Brand new. I have never performed this. This is special debut for Venezuela TESOL. I'm just going to do the first verse of it. What do you think this song is about? Fresh, fresher, freshest. Adjectives, good. And especially what about adjectives? What do we call those? Fresher, freshest. Degrees of comparison, very nice. Comparatives and superlatives. There we go, right on time. All right. I'm going to do it once without you seeing the words. The next slide has the words. Just the first verse. Just the first verse. Or just the first part of the first verse. And then we're going to look at the words together, and you're going to do it with me a little bit, okay? It goes like this. Whether you're young, younger, youngest, or old, older, oldest, if you're shy, shyer, shyest, or bold, bolder, boldest, follow fluent CMC, stick with me and you'll see we keep it hot, hotter, hottest, never cold, colder, coldest, make it loud, louder, loudest. I'm proud, prouder, proudest of my family around the world. I could never be without this. Across the globe we're spreading wider, widest. Don't you know we learn through having fun? You ought to try this. All right, that's the beginning of it. That's the beginning of it. What do you think? You liked it? Okay, good. So now, that's just the beginning. Glad you liked it, glad you liked it. Next slide. Here's the first verse. And what I want to do is first make you aware that the dark font here, and I can't see for a second. Wait a second. There's the time. I got to make sure I don't get cut off here. The dark font is the stress. Remember we talked about that at the beginning? That's the stress. And what I want you to do is I want you to shout out the comparative and the superlative, right? So I'm going to do it once. We'll do it twice. I'll do it once. You can do it with me or just watch, and then we're going to do it again. Whether you're young, younger, youngest, or old, older, oldest, if you're shy, shyer, shyest, or bold, bolder, boldest, follow fluent CMC. Stick with me, and you'll see we keep it hot, hotter, hottest, never cold, colder, coldest. Make it loud, louder, loudest. I'm proud, prouder, proudest of my family around the world. I could never be without this. Across the globe we're spreading wider, widest. Don't you know we learn through having fun? You ought to try this. Sooner, soonest, you'll learn quicker, quickest. If your books and lessons make you sicker, sing along to this song and you'll be stronger, strongest. Relax and repeat. It won't take longer, longest. Got it? Now, do you think I want you to memorize this song? No. I want you to read it, and your students to read it, so that the spellings, the collocations, everything gets stuck in your head. That's right, just enjoy it. So I want you to read it. I don't want you to try to younger, I have to remember, just like with my irregular verb song. So let's try it out. This is the shout out version where I'm going to stop and you fill in the gaps. Ready? Here we go. Whether you're young or old, if you're shy or bold, follow fluent and see. Stick with me and you'll see we keep it hot. I could never be without this. Across the we're spread inside. Don't you know we learn through having fun? You ought to try this. Soon, you'll learn quick. If your books and lessons make you sick, sing along to this song and you'll be strong. Relax and repeat, it won't take long. All right, thank you very much. I hope you can hear that okay. I'll check the chat box and see if people are okay. It's okay? Wonderful. Great. Awesome. All right. This is a longer psalm. It's just the first verse. We just have a minute and a half, so watch me go fast. Collo and Spark. Spark is superpowered automatic recall of knowledge. What I'm here to really try to get across to you today is that when you build collocations in your students at that knowledge level, then we can get them in conversations and doing presentations and writing TOEFL essay responses and job interviews and all of that stuff. They'll be more fluent and accurate this way. In one of my songs, More of America, which features Venezuela, by the way, you got to check out that video. Let's build a base to support higher thought and hold on to all of the things that we're taught, right? That's what I'm always talking about. You can look at this later. You learn without looking. When you stop feeling bored and stressed, having fun is when you learn the best. When you relax and enjoy your time, it's easier to learn with rhythm and rhyme. Good. Please join us in WizIQ at the ITDI Summer School MOOC, All English Teachers Worldwide. That's Chuck Sandy and myself. We're doing this MOOC starting tomorrow. And I'm going to be traveling next year doing rhyme on time performances. If you're interested, let me know. I'd love to come to your school. We got to sign off now. 11 seconds left. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks for being a great audience. Please connect with me, Fluent CMC, on the internet.